Welcome to Life on Lilac. My name's Anna, and today I'm going to do a video a little bit differently than I usually do because I'm going to take you on a tour of our entire acre-and-a-half property. Exactly 2 years ago, our family moved from Texas to Indiana and decided to run our ministry from this house right here. We want to take really good care of it because this place has been here since 1860, more than 160 years. I'm not going to take you inside the house today, but I will tell you a little bit about the house. This part of the house was built in 1860, so that's the oldest part of the house. We believe they lived in this part of the house. There's a living room down here, and we think there was a staircase going up here to some bedrooms. There was probably a kitchen area in this same big room right here. We think they lived in that place while they built the basement to this side, and then built a second house stuck to the side of the first house, which is why it looks like we have two front doors. And we actually do. Our family uses this one much more than we use the one that faces the street. It has been a real gift to live here in Indiana, and we've really seen the Lord bless our move here. So this stone wall, I talk about the wall a lot in my videos. We're pretty sure that this was built from field stones as the original farmer plowed his field and found stones in the field. We think he built the majority of this wall to delineate his property. This year I was able to put one type of perennial right here. This is a creeping phlox, and I'm doing my best to keep this weeded, but I'm hoping that in the spring and in years to come it'll just be this gorgeous floral carpet. And I'm hoping it'll just spread out and be really beautiful in the early spring. Last year I planted some lavender here, and it is looking really great. And then this lavender on this side doesn't get quite as much sun, but it's looking pretty good too, I think. And then these two columns mark the entrance of the property. When we first moved here, this side of the wall was covered with all kinds of weeds, some big trees that had been planted way too close to the wall, and more than anything, it was just absolutely crawling with poison ivy. I had to make it my own personal project to get rid of the poison ivy. It was crawling up this, and it looked like an ornamental vine. So I did what I had to do. I actually used an herbicide to get rid of that, and over the last year I've actually seen a lot less. This year we planted, I think 19, but I'm going to do a quick count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Yeah, 19 evergreen trees. Our hope is that these evergreens will grow up and make a nice screen for sound. We don't necessarily want privacy from our neighbors because we love our neighbors and we love to spend time with them. But I gotta tell you, a little bit of protection from road noise would be really, really nice. So we're hoping eventually that's what happens here. These ones in front, these are blue spruce. They're looking really bushy and wonderful. And these are Douglas firs, and both types of trees will get actually really big. So we're hoping they completely fill in a double screen up here. Okay, let's go up to the front, and I'll show you where the old hydrangeas used to be. And maybe I can put a clip of what those looked like right here. But last year, I made a hard decision to cut out the really old, overgrown hydrangeas. They didn't look great last year. They looked great the first year. Last year, they started looking pretty bad. They flopped over. They turned brown really, really early. And there are so many wonderful types of hydrangeas that I thought, I'm going to put something in here that's going to really give a good show. So let me show you what those look like. They're still kind of decorated for 4th of July, which we love. I've always wanted some of these bunting on a house. As I was reading magazines as a little girl, so that's pretty cool that we have those. So we have two different kinds of hydrangeas. If I can find the names of them, I will. I'll see what I can do as far as finding those for you. If you want, leave me a comment and I'll do the work if you want that. We have a couple of mums here. I love heuchera, or also called coral bells. You'll see a lot of those around the property. And then right in front here are the petunias. This is a really great petunia called Paradise from Proven Winners. And this right here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plants, and they just go crazy. I love this specimen of plant right here. If you do Supertunia Vista, those are the extra good ones here. And then over here is kind of a massive collection of ferns and hostas. I heard recently that no one should ever buy a hosta. If you buy a hosta, it means you don't have enough friends. So make some friends, split your hostas, trade them. We have a whole bunch. I love this light green one here. This looks like an Empress Wu, although I didn't plant any of these. These ostrich ferns, they completely die back, and so do the hostas every winter. So once we get a freeze, this will all look completely bare. And then as soon as spring comes, it all just pops back up, and it's really cool. I actually thinned out a lot of these this year, and you can't tell at all. So I'm gonna have to make some more friends and share some more of my hostas. Actually calling this year our second year on this property. We're calling it the year of the weeds, because most of what we have done in the second year is make space for new planting areas. And when you do that, you tempt the old plants to grow back. So we've spent so much time finding them and weeding them out. That's pretty much what I'm doing on a daily basis. So I'm going to try not to do that while we're walking around here. That's a mum. Can you believe that? I planted last year's mum in the ground, and that's what it looks like this year. These cool plants right here are Rudbeckia. Now, I bought these locally. These are a perennial that'll come back year after year. They're wonderful. But these, I recognized in the wall. See those ones up there? I recognized those when we were clearing some things out, and I moved them just to see if anything would happen. And they look so nice up here. I just love how they look here. So I'm going to continue to cut this shape around and, move things back from the house and just make this border big and beautiful. I love how much space is in between these. You'll notice as we go on, the first year I planted a lot of things way too close. And so next year I'm going to have to be doing a lot of thinning out and moving things around. This is an echinacea, really cool white echinacea. One of my goals almost immediately when we got here was to plant a lilac every single year. So this is one that we planted this year, and it actually bloomed really beautifully. And then I'm also starting a collection of David Austin roses, which my mother-in-law is on board with. She's bought me a couple now. And this one is called Claire Austin. It's actually a beautiful cream-colored rose. It's a climber. There's a little bud. There's a little bud right there. And my plan is to train this up on the side of the porch. I think that'll be really pretty. All this stuff, these are some daylilies, some hollyhocks. These phlox were on the wall as well. I saved those. I actually have a picture of the lady who bought this house in 1960, so keep that in mind. It was already 100 years old, and it looked like a haunted house when they bought it. It was falling apart. But we have a picture of her because she kept amazing notes, and I guess this binder of pictures has been passed down to owners of this house year after year. So we have a picture of her standing right out there next to her phlox. And now, here are her phlox, the great-great-great-grandchildren of her plants, growing right here next to our house. I'm really trying to do my best to keep things that were here, maybe not in the exact same place, but I'm trying really hard not to throw anything away. I'm not saving anything that's invasive, but I am trying my best to save things like irises and phlox and the Rudbeckia, trying to put those where I would prefer them, but to still keep them because someone really cared about this place at some point, and I want to honor that. This side of the house has been weeded several times. It still looks pretty rough, I gotta say. But this, you can't tell right now, but this is one of my favorite plants that we've planted since we moved here. It's called a red hot poker, or a Nephofia. And it just makes these beautiful orange and yellow spikes, or orange and red spikes that come up. I have a friend who used to live in Africa, and she said that those were native growing where she lived, and she loved seeing those. They reminded her of home. Here's another rose bush. This one's called Blaze, and it's a bright pinkish red. Here are some of those irises I was talking about. They need to be dead-headed, so they'll be healthy for next year. And here's another, now this is weird because it has a bloom on it right now, but how perfect. Here's another lilac. I guess there are some lilacs that have a repeat bloom, so maybe that's what's going on here. This one's called the Bloomerang Purple, and I bought this one because it was going to go next to this window. I didn't want it to block the view too much, but it only gets about 5 feet high, so it should hit about halfway up that window right there and stop growing, and then kind of fill out on the sides. That'll be nice. Now I would take you up our little path here that I recently posted on YouTube. I don't know if I can get up there. Here we go. I'll tell you what's growing here in just a second. But this is a little area right here that I planted specifically a couple months ago, and it's really filling in nicely. These are all Shasta daisies. This is the only one that has shown any desire for blooming this year, but that's fine. It's right in the middle. That's cool. We have some Veronica on both sides. Excuse me while I pull a weed. And then this spot right here is being held for some kind of statue. So I want that to look cute when it's all filled in with Shasta daisies and the beautiful pink spiky Veronica on both sides, and then like a little girl with a pitcher or something. I don't know. I think that'll be really nice. All right, carefully stepping back over this watermelon. If you've been following along for any amount of time, you know that I love to throw fruits and vegetables outside off of this porch into this area and just see what happens. The first year it was small pumpkins, and the pumpkins just went crazy. This last year it was one leftover sugar baby watermelon that I grew. They were really delicious, but somehow we just let it go too long.
Good job today.
Thank you.
Looking good.
Thank you so much.
You worked your little butt off.
Well, I worked my butt off, and then I had Ethan come back with the weed eater.
I have a weed eater.
Oh yeah? Yeah, he's pretty handy with it. Thank you. All right, you too. That's my friend Sue. She caught me weeding today, and it was a huge job. It was bigger than either one of us could believe. Okay, where was I? So I threw this watermelon off, and somehow some animal opened it up in the winter, and all the seeds came out, and it turned into this. It's like a sea of watermelons. I don't know how Donnie is navigating this. I guess he's just mowing around it carefully. He's doing a great job. I mean, I'd be fine if he just cut it off. I don't know. Don't tell him I said that. Anyway, there are so many watermelon plants in here. I mean, over a dozen. And look at this. There's one little guy, well, not so little right now, right here. There's a really big one that I've been showing on social media right here. Look at that. Now, I don't know much about sugar babies. I can't remember if they are hybrid or if, oh, look, there's a couple. This is so fun. It's like an Easter egg hunt. There's another one down there. I can't remember if they're hybrid or heirloom. Some sources said that they were heirloom, and some said that there were hybrid versions of them. So who knows what I got. But I'm hoping it's a really similar watermelon to the one that I threw out here. Otherwise, we could have all kinds of crazy watermelons growing. It's even growing up here. Isn't that funny? It got all the way to the top. So we're definitely having watermelons this year. This side of the house faces south. So actually last year I put up T-posts just like this, except all the way down the side of the house, and I grew all of our tomatoes right here. I didn't have the vegetable garden that you'll see later. I didn't have that set up, so I was like, I gotta have tomatoes. I wanna grow as many as I can. We grew more than 200 pounds of tomatoes on 50 tomato vines, and we grew them all the way down here. One of the issues we did have, we had no sun issues because there's plenty of sun out here. One of the issues we did have was animals. We've actually had a lot of issues with deer, and so that's why we made the priority to get the vegetable garden set up this year. So I'll show you that at the end of this video. Here's another favorite flower of mine. Echinacea of every color are just so easy to grow. They love heat. And I actually brought this plant, or possibly both of them, because I definitely split them, from Texas. It was one of my best growing things there, and it's one of my best growing things here too. And then this is really funny. This is a type of spruce, and Emma actually found this at the park next door to ours in a place that they had just mowed, and it was growing about this big, and she just dug it out and brought it over here, and look, it's totally growing. This is a spruce that I bought at Home Depot, and this is one that I got free at the park. It was the seed. It had grown from a seed from a different spruce at the park, and there it is, just all growing perfectly. There is one more thing I wanted to show you up here, and that is the wisteria. I actually have 3 plants of wisteria that I've started. This one's looking a little rough. It got eaten by something, but there's one. The other one just started really growing. You can barely see it down there, but it's right there, and it has a little stem that just shot up. And then this wisteria I brought from Texas. It never did well in Texas, but it sure is doing well here. Look at this. It has a woody stem that reaches all the way up, and it just started climbing. It got all the way to the top. So my goal, sorry, my camera isn't following my finger always. My goal is to tack that along there and just have wisteria growing that way, and on the other side in the early spring when wisteria blooms. Thing that says old-timey house, farmhouse, I think it's wisteria, so I'm really looking forward to that being there someday. So you guys wait with me and look forward to that with me. Moving along. This is actually a well. We have a well that we get all of our water from. This used to be a bird bath, which broke. So this is kind of holding in place. All this sage is just keeping it company until I'm able to landscape that better. Or at the moment, it is my herb garden with a little bit of grass growing in here. Let me just pull that out while I'm standing here. We've got some thyme and oregano and sage, and in a couple days I'll probably come out here in the morning and get some of that and dry some more of it from my herb shelf. This cute little house we think has been here since the very beginning. In that binder I told you about, the 1960s owner called this the smokehouse because they're actually rafters with hooks nailed to them. And so we don't know exactly what this is used for. If it was a smokehouse, there might be a chimney, but maybe they changed that out. Right now we're using it as a garden shed, which I will not show you right now because it's a big mess, but if you go back through some of my other videos, you'll be able to see inside of that. Now, when I first moved here, this was a huge mess. It was the first thing that I worried about landscaping, and you can see it does not look great this year. The year of the weeds has come calling for this little area around this smokehouse. Our ministry is planning on building a little bit extra housing for people who come to stay with us. And where that housing is going is right there. It's the best place for a carriage house. We need it to be really close to the house, even connected by a breezeway. So in the future, there will be a 2-story building right here with a garage underneath and an apartment on top. That'll be the likewise carriage house. So this year, understandably, I decided to take it easy with the landscaping of this. If you go back and watch one of my first videos, I was pulling out all this mint. But this year, I've just let it grow, and I cut it down and dry it for herbal tea, and then I let it grow again. So it's about time to cut that again for some herbal tea. And then the dahlias, it's really unusual for dahlias to come back in a cold area like this. But these, I did not save from last year, and I did not replant them. So this just seems like a gift from the Lord for me this year, and that's how I'm seeing it. So I've got dahlias that I didn't plant, and that's amazing. More irises that I've been moving all around the place. Look at this sad little boxwood back here that's been completely taken over by raspberries. I made a video a few weeks ago about these raspberries, and I actually moved from about this much to here, to the end of the sidewalk here. I moved them. I dug them up, and I moved them, and I've got proof. Look at this. There they are. Those are the raspberries that I moved. But let's go back and look at this. There are just as many as I moved, maybe more. So it's been said that berries are their own worst weed, and it's absolutely true, especially raspberries. Raspberries love to take over a place, and for the moment, I am totally fine with that. I mean, look at these. Just gorgeous. So we're trying to get as many raspberries as we can reach. They're definitely overgrown past that point at this moment, but they're delicious, and for now they're offering us something that we want. Now, if you have a raspberry problem, here's a little tip. That's not a raspberry, that's a tree that just started growing in the middle. Here's a tip. As they start growing, they're new shoots. These are what you would consider a weed, okay? These lighter green new shoots are coming straight out of the ground because they send out runners from the original plant. If you pull that plant out, which is recommended, you really don't need 1,000 raspberry plants. It's better to thin them out. If you pull out that runner, you can take off all of these. This is best done in the spring. All of these new leaves, wash them up, dry them in your dehydrator, or lay them out on a paper towel. All these little tiny baby leaves make a really good raspberry leaf tea, and you can save that and make your own herbal tea. Hey, mix it with your mint, and now you've got a really healthy and delicious herbal tea. So all of these raspberries at some point are either going to be thrown out or moved to that fence over there as soon as I get a minute to do that. All right, let me show you what's going on off the back porch. This is our back porch or deck. You can see we've got a little swimming pool over there because it gets hot up here and humid beyond what I could imagine even living in Texas, okay? But another one of my first landscaping projects was to make this look pretty. And remember when I said I was planting things too close and I was going to have to move some stuff? This is a good example of that. I've got this cute little boxwood here, this hydrangea that's really coming into its own size and looking gorgeous. These irises that I moved here, they were all piled in right here around this door when I moved here, so I just moved some over here. They looked beautiful this year. There are actually some tulips planted under there. This At Last rose, which is one of my favorite roses in the garden. It's not a David Austin, it's a Proven Winners. And then these heuchera here, it's too much. I also had, these are poppies here. I also had tons of poppies this spring. So I'm going to have to decide what I really want here and move some things out. When everything was small, it looked great. At this point, it's time to thin. Can you believe I've been here long enough to have to thin things? Same thing's going on over here. These coral bells are just getting huge, getting so big that I think there's one back here that got totally shaded out. Look at that. It's still doing fine. Coral bells really like shade and sun. Peonies. Another hydrangea. This one will actually get bigger than this one. This one's showing its beauty a little earlier, but this one's actually going to get a little bit bigger. And then this is another one of my David Austin roses. This one's called Lady of Shalott. Oh my goodness. So we don't know what we're going to be doing with the deck. We're going to have to redo it at some point. That is not a this year problem. That's a several years from now problem. But that's not going to be able to last us very much longer. But one of my goals is to have this climbing rose come up and over and cover that side there, because nobody walks past there, so I think that would be nice. And then over here we've got some things that have already pretty much finished blooming. I do have another climbing rose back there that's being totally dwarfed by this hibiscus that's about to pop. Up here we have these humongous hardy hibiscus, and that's what this is. So watch the channel, because this will be shown pretty soon when it opens up. And then this is a wonderful wildflower that was growing on the front wall when we first moved here, and I moved it all back here, and it's just making its way through the hibiscus and everything. This is called bee balm, and it's actually wonderful for drying for tea. So in a couple of days I'll come out here and pick a bunch of these bright pink petals, and I'll dry them on a paper towel on the side of the kitchen and put them in their own special jar to save for tea. That was actually really fun this year. I gave some ladies in my family some tea from plants that I had saved from here. Fun project. This is actually our garage. This is not going to be here long term, but until we have to take it down, it is going to be here. So at the time being, this is going to be where I put some blueberries. I have one blueberry plant. I have a couple other that are waiting to be planted, and I'm just going to have to get rid of all of that. There's only a little bit that I want to save in here. A couple of irises and a couple of these big orange daylilies. Everything else is just weeds and giant rocks, and so I'm just going to make this whole thing blueberries. It'll be nice to have them contained, because blueberries like acidic soil. So I can actually amend this soil with a fertilizer that it will like, and then I can control the acidity of the soil and hopefully get some good blueberries. I had to do this late tonight because the sun and the humidity was so high. Even though the high temperature was only 80 degrees Fahrenheit, I was dying out here. So I had to wait till almost sunset. The sun has since gone down, so we have a little bit of light. It's around 9 o'clock right now, 9 p.m. The sun sets really late here in the summer. But I want to show you a couple more things before we go. This is the fruit orchard. We have packed more than 20 trees in this small space, plus strawberry plants. Over here we have a nectarine. This is a fairly new purchase since we were replacing something from last year. We have a nectarine, we have 2 apricots and 2 plums. I believe that's another plum at the beginning of that row right there. And then these 4 coming down this way, we're in the process of mulching, as you can see. These 4 are peaches. This one's looking especially healthy. Then we have a nice 25-foot aisle in between. I don't know what we'll use that for. Maybe tables at a tea party or something. Who knows? These are all cherry trees. I don't know if they look healthy or not. They don't look healthy to me. I'm trying to figure out how to do better with these guys. And then these are all apples, except for that little straggler on the very end, and that's a pear. And then in between, besides the weeds, bear with me. These, you don't know how many times I've picked these weeds. 20 at least. Oh, weeds grow so crazy here. This is a strawberry. I actually planted strawberries in between every single one of these trees. They've done fairly well. Something's eating them, so I'm guessing it's deer, since there's no protection around these. I think the deer are nibbling the trees as well. But I would say for what is going on out here, they're doing very well. Now look at this. This is really exciting. Here's a strawberry that I planted. Here's a mass of weeds. But look what's coming out of this strawberry plant right here. This is a runner, and it has buried its own new plant here. So once this has established, if I want to, I can snip this, dig that up, and go plant it where another new strawberry plant might have failed. I can also just snip this and leave it where it is if I want to. And since there's not another strawberry right here, oh yes there is. So there's one right here. So I probably don't want to leave this one quite that close. So I'll find an empty spot once that's really healthy and established and move that to its new home. So there are strawberries, or there are supposed to be strawberries in between all of these trees. And look what we have here. This is an ever-bearing variety, so that's why it would have a fruit not in June. That is looking really nice. So this orchard is actually really important to our ministry and our family. We're not just about producing fruit that we can eat, although that is really, really cool. We're also learning about producing fruit in the spiritual manner. Okay, I'm skipping this, so don't look over here for now. I'm going to end there. But this is our little fire pit, and this is the pear tree that was here when we moved here. Pears are not supposed to get this big, okay? You're supposed to keep a pear only as tall as you can reach with a ladder or a tool. Nobody can reach those. So we're gonna be giving those to the squirrels, and let me tell you, they will eat them. But this is a really good pear year. One thing we've learned just from living here is that not every year is a big fruit producer. Actually, trees take years off. Last year was kind of an off year, and we probably only got 40 pears total, and we worked hard for those pears. But look at how many hundreds, possibly thousands of pears are on this tree. I'm gonna let you come to your own conclusions about how that applies to your spiritual life and producing fruit in your ministry. But we've definitely thought of some ways that that could apply to ours. And then back here is the fire pit. We actually spent a lot more time here last year than we have this year, because last year we actually had Wednesday night campfire with some youth group kids from our new church. This year they decided to have youth group at church, and so it wasn't needed, and we're actually really pleased about that. Here is our firewood stash back here, and this is actually a really beautiful shady area with all these honey locust trees and the pear tree. So the perfect place to put a hammock. And then check out this sweet light system. My mom actually came out and helped Donnie build these stands here, and it's just perfect. It's so nice and pretty out here after dark. A woodpecker really likes that stand also. Okay, are y'all ready to go in the vegetable garden? I have to warn you, it's not as impressive as I wish it was. And one reason is because it's been all about establishing beds, spaces where we're going to be planting for the next many years. So I wasn't able to plant a ton of stuff, but what I did plant, I planted in large amounts. So that'll be fun to see as we go in. First of all, we have this makeshift gate here. We're still working on it. This netting that we're using as a fence is called critter fence, and we bought it last year and just were able to get it up a month or so ago. So we're still working on the perimeter of this garden and what it will look like. But for now, we haven't seen deer in here, and that's a really good thing. All right, let's check it out. Just to the right of the entranceway, I planted a ton of onions. I actually had more onions than I knew what to do with, because onion sets were so inexpensive. I bought tons of them without thinking of how much space I had. I was just like, I want to plant a lot of onions this year, and they have done really well. Now you can tell these onions are ready to be picked because they're laying down and their green parts are drying out. That's what you're looking for in an onion when it is time to be picked. I left these in here so that you guys will be able to see something growing. So I'll pick a couple of these right now just so you can see Isn't that fun? Onions are so fun, and really my favorite things to grow are anything that grows under the soil. But these really do pop up on top of the soil when they get to be big enough. All right, I'm going to be picking the rest of these maybe tomorrow, but that's a good handful for tonight. What do you think? They smell so good. Oniony and like soil. In these 2 rows, all the way down, I had potatoes. And as you can see, these are ready also. I planted these on Good Friday, the Friday before Easter this year, which is, according to local farmers, the right time to plant, and they did really well. But you see how they're turning yellow and look like they're falling down a little bit? That's the sign that you're looking for potatoes being ready. So let's see how we're doing here. Oh yeah, look at that. Beautiful. Beautiful potato. Oh, I did not mean to be digging stuff tonight. Okay, I think I'm gonna need to get a fork and come out here and get these. I couldn't get these a couple days ago because we've had so much rain. You wanna be really careful to not dig potatoes in a wet bed because you don't want them to get too wet. They'll just rot when you try to store them. All right, I'm gonna have to come out here with a fork tomorrow, and that'll be so fun. Last year, I decided I wanted to save as many potatoes as I could for seed for this year. This year, my goal is not that at all. This year, my goal is to eat as many of the potatoes we grow as possible and not save any of them. A local farm store actually sells seed potatoes for really inexpensive, and I don't have to pay shipping on them. And so that's the best way to buy potatoes that you want to plant. So I don't even have to store them. And anyway, I wasn't great at storing them at all. Now, a couple days ago, this was all weeds, y'all. We've worked so hard, partially to get ready to show you the garden. But here are a couple crookneck squash. I'm hoping these don't get eaten up by the squash bugs. So far, so good. Maybe we can avoid those, and you know, probably not. Who knows? Right here, I have some okra that I hope will start growing. I just planted it, kind of late. Hope that'll start growing. Okra is a pretty fast grower, so it might. This is where our asparagus is. As you can see, let's find one. Oh yeah. When they are done for the year, look, there's a new one popping up right there. When they're done for the year, and they're done pretty much as soon as July 1st hits, maybe even earlier, they turn into this fern. And it needs to stay like this until it all turns brown so that it can get as much nutrient from the sun as possible to feed the roots to make more for next year. So we'll cut it down when that turns brown so we can have more for next year. Oh, here's another okra that's looking really nice. This is another okra bed. So ignore the weeds here. All right, let me step over this debris. I'm gonna grow some patty pan squash right here. Let's check. The leaves look pretty good so far. I don't see any evidence of squash bugs here. That's good. Thank you, Lord. And then over here, some peppers. These are bell peppers down here. I wonder if we have any babies starting. Oh yeah, there's one. So tiny, hardly anything. And then here we have jalapenos, which is my favorite pepper because I love pickled jalapenos on all my Tex-Mex dishes. Oh yeah, there's some right there. Whoops, you can't see that. There they are, right down there. So those peppers are looking nice. We've got all these marigolds to help keep the pests away. And strangely, this sugar snap pea is still going. It's not looking healthy at this point, but it is still producing little tiny snap peas. Wonderful. There's another one. Oh, and there's another one. Nice. All right, let me tell you what's on the trellises. When we were in Dallas, I had beautiful trellises made out of exactly the same stuff. This is a cattle panel, and they used to be about $20. Now they're running about $32. Still pretty reasonable for a trellis like this. And we make these arches out of them. Go look for a video of how to get these things in your car because they're 16 feet from end to end. So it's actually, there's a little trick to getting these in your truck. But you just put these in with a T-post. And I love anything that you can put together with a T-post and some zip ties. And I have a couple different climbing fruits or vegetables on these trellises. On the two closest, these are pumpkin pie pumpkins. So these are smallish pumpkins that are 100% edible, like for sure edible, because some of the decorative pumpkins are not edible, so I wanted to make sure I was careful and planted for sure edible pumpkins on these things. Oh, here's some plants that I need to put in the ground soon. Over here, I planted a watermelon on both sides here. This is an actual sugar baby watermelon, which is the same one that I have growing on the side of the porch, but this one came from a packet, so we'll see if there's any difference between this fruit and the one growing out there from Volunteer. And then this is some kind of, what says muskmelon, it's a kind of cantaloupe. So I've never grown a cantaloupe successfully, so that was just fun because I put some watermelon seeds here and they never showed up as plants this year, so you never know. My best advice for growing anything is to plant a lot because the best gardeners have killed more plants than anybody else. So if something doesn't come up or if something dies in your garden, just plant something else. Plant something else as soon as you know it's not going to work out because you have room now and you can put a couple seeds in the ground that may work out. You just never know. So trial and error and volume are the best things to do in your garden when you're trying to grow food, especially. Over here, these are jack-o'-lanterns. I actually grew pumpkins all along the front wall last year. I didn't want to do that because it was a mess and I really want to take care of the weeds out there this year, and I couldn't do that when the pumpkin vines were just sprawling all over the place. And while they might say that pumpkin vines will shade out your weeds, not to the extent that I had weeds along that front wall. So I decided to dedicate one of these beds in the vegetable garden to pumpkins. Just a classic jack-o'-lantern. Now, last year I had a real problem with vine borers, and so I'm going to be putting some ash down here. I've heard that wood ash is good. I just heard that, which is why I haven't done it yet. And then I wrapped the stems with aluminum foil, which might make the moths that give birth to the vine borers, might make them not so interested in these plants. It's all just an experiment, y'all. And then in these two rows here, these are all tomatoes. I think I planted about 32 plants this year. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, because in between each space here, I planted 4 tomatoes. So I've got 8 spaces, 32 plants. I think I planted 50 last year. I'm not going to get as many tomatoes this year, but that's okay because I still have pasta sauce that I made last year that's still going. But I have all different kinds. I made a full video on planting these, and look how good they're doing. This is an Amish paste. I don't know what everything is because they haven't started ripening yet. I'll get to know them a little bit better once they start ripening. But this is called the Florida weave method. Well, this is called the lazy Florida weave method because I haven't been out here as much as I was last year. But what you do is you put a T-post and a T-post. These are 6 feet apart. Yeah, 6 feet apart. And then once they start growing, you put some baling twine in between them. Now, a real Florida weave is going to weave in and out these stems so that everything is nice and upright. I actually was kind of lazy this year and just kind of did the outside, and then every once in a while I'll flip the two, if you can understand what I'm saying. So most of these are all in between two here, but if I wanted to, I could flip these like that and then stick another stem through there. But for the most part, they're doing fine with this lazy Florida weave that I've gotten going on. They definitely need to be pruned. I'll get some of these leaves off the ground and prune them up. But, you know, I just haven't had a lot of time for that this year. Been pulling weeds. I've got a lot of basil out here. Basil and tomatoes love to be grown together. And these need to be cut soon. When you prune basil, cut it all the way down to where you see two smaller stems starting to grow. Just snip it right there, and then you can use all this basil and you'll get a whole bunch more growing. And some more marigolds. Oh, look at this nice one. That's a Carolina gold. One of my favorite determinate types of tomatoes. What's this one? Celebrity. Oh, that's another great one. Really impressive, pretty fruit on the Carolina gold and the Celebrity. And then the last thing is this out of control volunteer that just showed up. I don't know what that is. It's a pumpkin or gourd of some kind. The garlic is all in the house drying for storage. That was all right there, and I've got to decide what I'm going to be putting there for fall. And then on this side, my neighbor who you saw telling me what a good job we did weeding, she's so sweet. She was out walking and then just decided to check in on me. She gave me these cool towers that her husband built before he passed away. She asked us if we wanted some tomato cages, and I was like, okay, sure. And they were not what I expected, and I think they're so great. So I decided to put pickles on them. In my garden, there's no such thing as a cucumber because I think cucumbers are gross, but I do love pickles. And so we're growing pickles right here. And I think I saw one. Oh, see that one right there? Whoops, where is it? Right there. That's a female flower. You can tell because it has a little baby fruit undeveloped right there, and it's waiting to be pollinated by a bug that has visited a male flower. So the male flowers they just have a stem. See the stem? No undeveloped fruit, but the female flowers have that, and that is where a pickle will eventually grow. There's another one right there, a little female. So hopefully this will just be covered in pickling cucumbers, and I'll have a huge supply this year. And then in between, because pickles and dill go so well together, I have dill in between, and those actually help with cucumber pests as well. And the very last cage has a sun sugar, I think this one's called. It's a great little cherry tomato. Oh, that was better than I expected. All right, let's grab my onions. Here they are. And those 4 potatoes I picked out. I should have brought a basket. What was I thinking? They smell good too. It's a little finicky. I really need to come up with a gate here. Guys, we're almost done. In the near future, I'm going to be finishing this front part here. You can take a little look behind me at the garden space. So this front part here, as we go back towards the house, is going to have herbs and edible flowers and anything that I might use in some dried tea blends. So that's going to be a little tea garden going out that way. And that's the whole plan. All right, y'all, it's getting dark and the mosquitoes are about to show up, so I'm gonna be heading in for the night. But I'm so glad you joined me. I'm so glad I was able to show you at least most of what's going on here, give you a little bit of insight about what we're planning. And here is my goal. I hope that by year 5, by the end of year 5, our 5th anniversary, we have all of the areas established and that we're just at a maintenance place in the orchard, in the gardens, and in the landscaping around this property. And so as we go forward, those are the things that I'm going to be showing on this channel and the things that you'll be able to follow along with and see come to fruition. I'm so glad you were able to hang out with me tonight, and I hope you'll come back to see what's going on next around here at Life on Lilac. Until next time, bye.